Hello, friends. It's the Cinemondo podcast with Kathy and Mark and me. I like monster movies.
I love Guillermo del Toro.
And I'm a big.
He's awesome.
Yeah. And we all know, I mean, he's done so many great movies, and even the Cabinet of Curiosities, which was on Netflix a few years ago, was really good. And so obviously his big film now that was first at the theaters and then now is on Netflix is his interpretation of Frankenstein. And it stars, it's a great cast. Jacob Elordi is the monster. Oscar Isaac is Victor Frankenstein. Mia Goth, Christoph Waltz, Carl Kemmerer, I think his name is. So it's a wonderful cast.
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to see that it's LA premiere at the Academy. So I got to see it on this huge screen, and it was amazing. And then, of course, Kathy and Burk have seen it too. So we want to do a review of what we thought about this version of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
This is a Guillermo del Toro dream project, and I got worried because we know how that worked out with some other directors where they do their dream project, and it's like kind of like, no, thank you, and it doesn't go well.
Right.
But this, I feel like, was a huge achievement. I thought it was gorgeous. I thought he really leveled up the whole Frankenstein story. I feel like I was seeing something new and fresh, even though I've probably seen a million Frankenstein things. So I was really happy.
Well, that's the problem, is you've seen it done in so many times in so many classic ways. There's, of course, the first thing you think of is Boris Karloff in that classic Jack Pierce makeup.
Yep.
And that, I mean, that's Frankenstein. That you can't. What can you do to go sort of to get more iconic and more heartbreaking and more of a classic, perfect horror film than that film and The Bride of Frankenstein? I mean, look at him and Elsa Lanchester as the Bride of Frankenstein, and those are like you're not ever going to erase those and replace those images, but. Guillermo del Toro loves those things so much. Loves monsters. He grew up. You see interviews with him where his family, I guess, was very, very devoutly Catholic, and he says that when he saw Frankenstein, Boris Karloff make that classic entrance through the door, he said that became my Jesus. He says that horror movies are his church. I
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Because movies, I feel like movies are my religion. I'm very spiritually connected to movies. They're my my whole persona. I love them.
When a movie starts, you go, okay, now I'm going to give this my love. I want to love this movie. Whether it happens or not, it depends on the film. But this movie, what I think was fascinating about it, he focused on the relationship between the Dr. Frankenstein and the monster. And it's told in two separate stories. It starts out, well, there's a framing device.
Perspective, we'll say. Yeah.
What's that?
Perspective.
Yeah. There's this framing device around the ship that's stuck in the ice. And we shouldn't do too many spoilers here because the movie's still fairly new. But
I mean, it's Frankenstein. We all kind of know.
No, but I know. But as far as what this
spoiler for
here, So then there's the doctor story, which takes up a good chunk of the movie, and then it stops, and we get the monster side of the story, their perspective, which I thought was interesting because it talks about it's really about their relationship. It's almost like father-son relationship in a way.
Very dysfunctional.
Well, to me, it did that. It went into like relationship between the doctor and his creation, but it also went into that sort of. There's a weird thing that I felt from it. I mean, I have spent my whole life doing creative things, art. You make as an artist, as a creative person in the creative realms, you make things, you create things, and you feel a sort of like a creative. Almost, this sounds weird, but I'm going to go with it. You feel like a certain kind of, a parent of your creations, and you have a connection to them, and you release them into the world, and then people judge them. When you do a piece of work for I've done creative stuff for films, and a lot of times I get that Frankenstein vibe from what I do. Like I sweat and I work and I put so much of myself into this thing, and then when I'm done, I kind of feel like you're done with it, and I kind of just leave it chained up in the basement, and I'm done. I move on, and I find other things to do. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like when he did. I felt like that was kind of one of the sad things about it, is that idea of he was so passionate, so blindly passionate about the idea of creating life. And then once he did it, it was like, yeah, I did it. And now what? You know, he wasn't interested in it anymore. He left it chained up in the basement. And then he was like annoyed by it.
Because he failed. He felt like he failed.
Right,
he felt like
right.
it wasn't a person. It was messed up because all the equipment failed, fell over, and there was all this chaos. And then his benefactor, you know, attacked him. So it's like all this shit happened at the same time. So I feel like it ruined his grand moment. And so I think he resented the monster because it wasn't perfect. And
it wasn't perfect.
Yeah. He was very disappointed.
He's like, I'm going to put this disappointment in the basement where I don't have to look at it, you know. And he knows that
it was alive.
I know, but well, it wasn't technically. It sort of was.
Yeah.
It's like what I liked about it is that I liked the sort of, and also Dr. Frankenstein is not sympathetic.
No,
God, no.
In the beginning, what I liked that he was very arrogant. He thought he knew everything. He got Christopher Waltz's character to, you know, give him the money to do it. They both were in it for their own reasons. Their own, you know, we find out later what that is. But it's like he wanted to realize this grand thing that no one listened to him. They thought he was a joke. So he finally gets to do it. But it's all sort of that weird commerce meets art that kind of like, and I do consider like art, like you were talking about, like he created this thing with the help of this guy, and that guy kind of in a way ruined it for him. And now he's like, that was my one big moment. Now what do I do? And it goes,
the condition
out of my face. Let's just destroy it, pretend like it never happened. Like, that was kind of his goal, you know? But you know, Mia Goth's character kind of saw the value in it. Like she was kind of like, you can make this happen. He's no, it's a failure. I hate it. You know, it's like, So I liked that complexity of like, he didn't get his big moment, but he wouldn't give it time to sort of happen. He wouldn't help, you know, he wouldn't help nurture it. He didn't even have that DNA to help nurture this kind of, in a way, his son that he created, you know?
Well, it's like his son didn't turn out the way he wanted him to, you know. It's like he was like resentful of the fact that he didn't, you know, it wasn't.
He said one word, Victor. That's all he said for a period of time.
Yeah. But the thing is, he had to know.
He said Elizabeth.
While he's putting this thing together, he had to know it's not going to be perfect. I mean, he's
I don't think he knew that.
Dead bodies from battlefields.
No,
and
I think he thought it was going to be.
Well, he was, you know, he had that incredible, you know, the what was it, the lymphatic system done.
I love that.
Yeah.
How they depicted that,
and that goes into like the production and just how beautiful this film is mounted. I mean, everything just looks so, I don't know, sumptuous and artful and
beautiful,
wonderful.
And so many references. I have to bring up a reference that they made when they showed that lymphatic system mounted on the piece of wood, and
love that,
and supposedly sealed them there with resin, sort of like those Bodyworks things that were touring around a while back. But when he talked about it, there was like these configurations, and he said, but there's one that they never showed, that it's the 9th configuration. And that's the name of a story movie by William Peter Blatty that he made after his success with The Exorcist. And it's a similarly existential kind of film. It's a pretty incredible movie, and you can watch it and you can realize, okay, this is why Guillermo del Toro put that in there as a reference. It's a movie. Scott Wilson is in it. The guy who was in Walking Dead is in it, and he is incredible. It's a great cast, really cool movie. But check that out if you want a little bit more.
A little more context. And also, clearly, Guillermo del Toro is a fan. So I would want to watch something he likes because I like what he does. So whatever inspires him, I love it.
Yeah.
And I feel like, too, when you make a movie like that, sorry, I keep going. When you make a movie like Guillermo del Toro, in a way, is creating his child. You know, he's creating this art. And so it's almost kind of meta. He's the doctor. He's creating this movie that's creating a son, that's creating that's bringing something to life that wasn't alive before. Like, I like the sort of idea that you sort of see that emotion in that. So I think it felt very personal that you're putting this thing out here. Like, you're the doctor going, here's what I made. You know?
Well, one thing I'll say is at the premiere, he was there, and one thing he said was, he said, listen, I wanted to do this film for 30 years.
Yeah.
And it was rejected by everybody, including many people that are in this audience. so he had this little dig saying, I finally got to make it. Netflix gave me the chance, gave me the budget, telling the story I want to tell. the way I want to tell it, and it's so brilliant because it is Frankenstein, but it's also Del Toro, and that combination just works. You can tell he loves the source material, and it's, you know, as the film progresses, it becomes so tragic and so sad.
It's almost hard to watch. It's so damn sad. The whole thing is so heartbreaking. God.
And Jacob Elordi as the monster is just fantastic because, you know, what Burk was saying earlier, you think of Karloff, you think of the classic, you know, Frankenstein mask, which has been around for almost 100 years.
Yeah.
And so, but he brought something totally different to it, and it works.
Yeah,
he had that physicality. He was really tall and long. And his body is so just his physicality and like almost dancer, like how he every movement seemed really perfect, and he had those great, you know, what do you even call it? Like prosthetics? I don't know. It was more like almost like carvings on his body, so he looked like this, but he moved so beautifully and just so intentionally. And then he didn't have to do anything to this guy besides that. He had the perfect physique. He looked taller. He towered over everyone. But yet he had this sort of elegance about him that was really well done.
And they did a few things to him to make him seem a little bit like mismatched parts. You know, I think they did some things to his hands that I noticed that make his hands look a little bigger.
But beautiful in a weird way. Like just
it was like it wasn't designed to be like repulsively scary. But then when you think of Boris Karloff, he was scary, but he also had so much emotion and pain in his face. He wasn't a threatening monster. He was a pathetic monster. He was this towering, you know, and Boris Karloff has to, you know, so much credit has to be given to him for his performance and that sort of defined that style of the monster. Then there's the other kinds that were a little bit more elegant, that more match the character from the book, like Frankenstein, the True Story, which we've talked about here if you go back in our history. But this guy who did in this new film had a interesting. I don't mean this as an insult, but he had like this blankness to him when he first appeared. There was like this emptiness in his eyes, where he was, and I assume that the brain that Frankenstein used, that he may have found it on the battlefield or something, some head that still had
it was Abby someone.
Abby
Normal.
Abby Normal.
Who it was.
But whatever brain it is, it didn't retain. That's always been an issue with the Frankenstein stories, is that the brain for some reason doesn't retain the memories, unless you're talking about the Hammer ones, I won't go into it, but Frankenstein must be destroyed, things like that. But in this one, it was another one of those sort of erased brain versions of the monster, where you assume that all the electricity that's coming in was giving him shock treatment and sort of like, you know, reboot the brain. And so he was born, and he had little fragments. There's a couple of moments in there where he'll say, "I have dreams," and then another suggestion that he already knows how to read, which was interesting. And there was some things he didn't have to learn, and they sort of came back to him after a while, you know.
And I feel like they would come back, but Dr. Frankenstein was so busy just blowing him off and going, I don't care about this thing. It was a failure. He's a representation of everything I didn't want, you know. It's like, so he didn't even want to work on it, where he felt like when Elizabeth was going down there kind of working with him, he was kind of, it was sort of happening, you know.
Yeah.
So you feel like a little nurturing, like with a child, you know, it could eventually like bring that out. But yeah, that's what was so sad about it. And then when you, of course, the big scenes where he goes to where the blind man is and he's kind of teaching him, you realize he just needed a father, which Victor was not going to equipped to do because he was such an asshole.
Yeah.
And he knew it too. He was like, let the monster get me. The whole time it's like, just let him get me.
Yeah.
It's like, I deserve it.
Yeah.
And we can just talk about how great it is that, you know, Netflix, you know, this is something you should have seen at the theater, but if you don't, you can watch it at home, and you can watch this beautiful version of a movie that I think requires multiple viewings because there's so much in it. Gorgeous. I've seen it once, but I want to see it again just to go, you know, all the beautiful things that are in it. So it's a great film. I think it's a triumph for him. And I like everything he does. Actually, some things not as much, but I loved this. I thought this was just his heart and soul. So definitely worth checking out. Even if you know Frankenstein backwards and forwards.
Not this one.
See this one.
Yeah.
Well, there's something also kind of comforting about seeing another version of it. You know, there's been so many different takes on it, and each one has its own the person who wrote that version of, I mean, it's in the public domain, so you can make your own Frankenstein. But every person who makes it, everyone who writes an adaptation of that story seems to pick up on some other aspect of it.
Yeah.
And the James Whale, I mean, James Whale was such a great filmmaker, such a great storyteller, visual storyteller. It was so much in there that a lot of, this is an interesting thing too. A lot of people who feel like outcasts really relate to the Frankenstein story, and they watch it and they're not scared of the monster. They understand, they relate to the monster. And that's the way this one was. You can tell Guillermo del Toro grew up a little bit of a nerd, a little bit of an outcast, whatever. He was like, he's one of us. He's a monster kid, and probably like us was one of the few at his school, and probably felt like, what's wrong with me, and there's a lot of that in this film. But then when you see the Hammer versions of it, Hammer basically took it and turned him into a monster. He is a monster. And then other Hammer versions of it turned him into another kind of tragic character. But this one goes back to the idea of that Boris Karloff kind of, he's not bad. He's just ugly or strange
or misunderstood or just
misunderstood.
not fully formed as a person or as an entity. It's hard to understand.
Yeah.
So, but it's great. I think if you haven't seen it, watch it.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's just class act all the way. Just amazing.
And what a great ending too. I mean,
a really great ending, and so many little references, little Easter eggs and things like Elizabeth's, wedding dress is so perfect. The arms, and I won't go into too much, but there's also, speaking of Frankenstein, the true story, there were these big green tanks. I mentioned it before when we were reviewing the trailer, but these big green tanks are pretty important in the laboratory set. And I think those are a callback to the Frankenstein, the true stories.
The laboratory set was so good.
So beautiful.
Good. That big weird hole. You knew something bad was going to happen, right? If you have a big hole in the middle of your studio,
which I thought was such a beautiful design. That was such a perfect design.
So good.
So you
put all the trash. Just throw it down there.
The edges of it slope in. It's
so
almost
dangerous.
like a black hole.
Oh,
and it's like if you step too close to it, you slip in there and you're in the ocean.
Yeah, it's not good.
And that to me was, I love set design that put you on edge. And then there's scenes where characters are walking around it or walking
I'm going, well, are you kidding? Where's the railing?
I love that. I love
ADA compliant.
And the scene where he's
people
taking
do
that big, the big lightning bolt kind of device, he's climbing up to the top thing, holding it. I'm like,
and it's raining.
You have not put that before. The lightning
castle's on a cliff. This cliff 100 yards to the water, and
you're doing that now.
Well, he had to rush it, right? And I like that they gave a reason why he had to rush it, and I love the motivations. Like we had, Christopher Waltz's character is like he had his reasons to want to make this happen. It wasn't because, Dr. Frankenstein, I believe in you. He had his own selfish reasons, which I feel like was a really good reason. Yeah. And I feel like Dr. Frankenstein or Victor did not take advantage of something he should have, which could have changed the whole outcome of this.
Well, he had a reason why he didn't want to. Being a doctor.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have worked. And he was a doctor, but look what he did. So anyway, I'm just saying, I love the complexity of that. The two motivations to make this whole thing happen, and just blew up in their face, both of them, literally.
Yeah, it's a smart film in a lot of ways. So it's
smart.
It's really well worth checking out. So we loved it. Frankenstein on Netflix. No excuse for
so easy. Watch it over and over easily.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good one.
That was fun. Okay,
it was fun.
Bye everybody.